I served with sailors, Marines, and Army folks from all walks of life during my time on active duty. We all bled green, we all bled red, and we're all green in heart. And we are all united in our mission to protect the United States. Putting our differences under the microscope only divides us and distracts us from our mission, so I am pleased that the NDAA gets things like DEI and critical race theory out of the military's divisive issues. I'm also glad that it reauthorizes language I put in last year's NDAA to improve the Defense Department's transparency on how it works with entities that discriminate against conservative voices by steering advertisement dollars away from them.
Mr. Speaker, this is a message to all my colleagues voting on the NDAA and to Americans who might be watching. You are being misled. Our most cynical Republican colleagues are telling you that Democrats are pushing for sterilization and surgery for kids in military families. Let me be absolutely clear. This is not true. That's not what's going on here. Here's what is true. TRICARE currently covers appropriate gender-affirming hormone therapy for all military dependents, period. The kind of care that millions of doctors support as safe and effective. Now, Republicans want to restrict this, but only for trans kids. They are targeting trans kids and their families and saying what kind of health care is appropriate for them. This is a very tiny percentage of the population, and they are using this opportunity to scapegoat them. Now, we know that appropriate and medically recommended care saves lives. We know this. It's well documented. Why wouldn't we want to do everything that we can to save the lives of children? Military families, and I am a member of a military family. I was born on an Army base in Germany when my dad served in the military. Military families carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. They shouldn't have to worry about whether their kids can receive the life-saving care that they need. And our service members have enough to worry about. Why do Republicans want to make it even more complicated for them by limiting health care options for their families? I'm here to say it absolutely loud and clear. Military families deserve the health care that they need. And this includes gender-affirming care options for their children. Service members across this country and across the world deserve so much better than what they are getting from House Republicans. I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. The gentlewoman from New Mexico reserves. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to read the provision word for word. Medical interventions for the treatment of gender dysphoria that could result in sterilization may not be provided to a child under the age of 18. That is word for word the language in the bill. With that, I reserve.
Gentleman from Georgia reserves. The gentlewoman from New Mexico is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we are prepared to close at this time.
Mr. Speaker, we're prepared to close as well.
The gentlewoman from New Mexico is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we have heard from my Democratic colleagues as we have raised our voices in opposition to this rule. We've raised our voices in opposition to this rule for numerous reasons. One is, it's not really taking care of the people's business, of their most pressing concerns. Liberty and laundry, really? Liberty and laundry when we could be addressing key things like funding the government, like protecting Social Security, passing the Farm Bill, making sure that we have the nutrition program so children do not go to school hungry and stay hungry. We need to protect education. We need to do all of these things that the American people are asking for. And what do we get instead? We get their bills for liberty and laundry. You know, and this is a continuation of their other bills. You know, stoves, refrigerators, all kinds of things that mean nothing to the American people, but that mean a lot. That mean a lot to those big corporations and those billionaires. Time and time again, Republicans have come to this floor and told us who they stand with. They stand with the richest American. They stand with the billionaires. They stand with the wealthy corporations who do not want any regulation. When they say no regulation, what they're saying is don't pass the kinds of regulations that save lives. Don't pass the kinds of regulations that make sure that we save money. And so that's when we will constantly point out, every time they do it, who are you standing with? The wealthiest, the billionaires, and we are standing with working families. And then the NDAA, something that is usually and almost always bipartisan. You do not hear a ranking member of the armed services come before the committee and describe how these kinds of provisions are poison pills, how they are a stain on the bipartisanship. And my colleague across the aisle keeps getting up and pointing out one provision, but that provision fails to acknowledge that the lack of care leads to death, leads to suicide. So that you are standing in between a father, a mother, and their child. You are standing in between the parents, the doctors, and their child. And I think that Americans deserve more. We deserve American families, especially those who, as the story for my colleague Scanlon said, have sacrificed so much for our nation, who go and travel from one base to another base to another base, knowing that they can get care for their children. And that we have members on the other side saying, no, 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 no. We know better than you. We know better than the parent and the doctor as to what care your child should get. That is insulting to our Marines, to those who serve in our Navy, to those who are deployed overseas and in our bases around our own country. They deserve better. And that's why we are calling out that provision, because it interferes with a family's ability to get care for their children. So, because of these tragic problems and the fact that you don't let us debate anything, all those amendments that were offered, no, we never get to debate any of those. So the American people doesn't know. They don't know. They can't hear us talk about these things. This is one of the only times we get to come and talk about these things. So for these reasons, we urge a no vote on the rule. And with that, I do yield back.
The gentlewoman from New Mexico yields, and the gentleman from Georgia is recognized.